Hey everybody, it's Logan Albright here, wishing you more fun times in quarantine. We're all looking for stuff to do. It's a great time to catch up on your reading list. It's also a great time to maybe acquire some new books to read, some new things that you wouldn't have already read, and that's what I'm trying to do. The local bookstore here in Washington, D.C., where I live, one of the best bookstores in town, is called Second Story Books in DuPont Circle. And they were running a special where they would curate several books based on your interests and put them in a bag for you, a tote bag. This beautiful little cloth second story book tote bag. Curate them for you, put them in a bag based on your interest, and leave them on the side of the curb for you to pick up by their store while everything is closed. So it was $25 for that service, which I thought was eminently reasonable, so I took advantage of it and got a few things. So I wanted to go over what they picked out for me and see how good of a job they did picking out books. Now, I encourage everyone, if you have the means, to support your local stores during this shutdown when everything is closed, especially bookstores. You know, they have a hard enough time of it as it is. So if you can give a few bucks to your local used bookstore and get some new reading material along the way, I think it's a great thing to do. I like the special that they were running. I thought it was really cool because, you know, you don't really know what you're going to get there. You get a surprise along with the books, and I thought it was a good deal. They gave me 6 books, which is about $4 a book. If you do the math, I don't think that's a bad deal at all. So let's go through what they picked out for me. Now, they ask you to specify the genres that you're interested in. I told them that I liked their books on occultism because they have a really good shelf on that. I like folklore and mythology. I like psychology. I like philosophy. I like travel narratives. That's basically what I told them I liked. So this is what they came up with. First up is Beowulf, translated by Seamus Heaney from the Old English. Now, I'm sure people know Beowulf is the oldest poem that we have available in the English language. It's in Old English, which is a completely different language than the one we speak now. It's unrecognizable, so you have to have a translation of it if you're going to read it. It's not like Chaucer, which is Middle English, where you can kind of work it out if you know a little bit of the history. You need a translation for Old English because it's a completely different language. I've never read Beowulf before. I'm vaguely familiar with the story, but I'm excited to read it. So this is a good choice for me. This edition is pretty heavily annotated by the previous owner, which maybe that'll be helpful. Who knows? It also is a dual language edition where it's got the Old English on one side and the modern English on the other. I really like that because I'm interested in Old English. I don't know that much about it, and I like to be able to compare and see how the language has changed over time. So that should be a fun one. Next up is An Empire Wilderness, Travels into America's Future by Robert D. Kaplan. I did tell them that I was interested in travel narratives, so that's where they got this from. It looks like, I don't know too much about it, but it looks like it's a narrative about traveling across America and examining kind of the different cultures that exist within the country and sort of looking at the country as less of a monolithic whole and more of a collection of individual cultures, which I think should be pretty interesting. I'm excited to read that one. Next up, The Confessions of St Augustine. Now, I actually already have this book and have already read it, so I was a little disappointed to get it in the pile. But it is a good book and it's interesting, especially if you're interested in theology and if you're interested in history. It's interesting to hear someone from an early Christian perspective talking about the different types of Christianity, the different sects. He used to belong to a sect called Manichaeism, which is like a Gnostic sect that believed in a good creator deity and then an evil creator deity and then a good deity higher than that. And he was converted out of that into Catholicism, and he talks about his childhood and his biography and his beliefs and his theology. It's a pretty interesting book. Unfortunately, I have already read it. Next up is Best Loved Folk Tales of the World, edited by Joanna Cole. This looks pretty great, actually. It's got folk tales and fairy tales kind of organized by country or region. It's got them from all over the world. It's not just the Western world. There's Asian and African folktales and stuff in there, Australian. Pretty much any country you can think of has got folktales in here, which is pretty cool. So it's got the familiar ones like, Cinderella and the Grimm's fairy tales and the Perrault fairy tales and things like that, Hans Christian Andersen stuff. But then it also has folktales from a lot of non-European sources, which should be a lot of fun. And I'm looking forward to delving into this. I'm sure there'll be a lot of unfamiliar stories as well as a lot of familiar ones. The next one is called Shamans Through Time, 500 Years on the Path of Knowledge. I don't know too much about this. It looks pretty interesting. It claims to be a history of shamans. If you read the inside front cover, it almost sounds like it's supposed to be a joke. It says, in Shamans Through Time, Jeremy Narby and Francis Huxley trace Western civilization's attempt to understand the ancient knowledge of shamans. Who were these extraordinary people who imitated the sounds of animals in the dark, or drank tobacco juice through funnels, or wore collars filled with stinging ants? It sounds like from that, it sounds a little bit irreverent and a little bit mocking of the shamans. So maybe that's just a poor copywriter there. But I'm interested in that because I don't know a lot about the shamans. I think the term comes from Mongolia, but we tend to associate it with Native Americans now. So it'll be interesting to see that history. I think I'll enjoy that a lot. And then the final one is The Serpent and the Rainbow. It's a Harvard scientist's astonishing journey into the secret society of Haitian voodoo, zombies, and magic. So this is a kind of an anthropology account, it looks like, of Haitian voodoo, which again, I don't know too much about. I've studied European witchcraft and Western occultism extensively, but I have not really done any study at all on Haitian voodoo, and so this should be an interesting addition to my collection and my expand my knowledge a lot. Again, it's going to be from the perspective of a Harvard professor, so I don't know how accurate it's going to be. It's not it's not an account from the people who know about this stuff. It's him going in and viewing it as an outsider, but it should be pretty interesting. It's got this plastic jacket cover, dust jacket protector on it that looks like it was from a library or something. But it looks like a pretty interesting book, and I think I'm going to probably learn a lot from that, because again, I don't know very much about the roots of Haitian voodoo and the zombie tradition and all that, so it should be fun. So there you go, that's my book haul. I got these curated books. I didn't pick out any of these books individually. The bookstore picked them out for me. I think they did a pretty good job. I'm excited to delve into some of them, some more than others, obviously. They only did one book that I had already heard of or already read, which is the Confessions of St Augustine, but everything else should be a lot of fun. So again, if you're bored during the quarantine, you're looking for new stuff to do, try to find a way to support your local bookstore. See if they are doing any kind of specials where you can pick things up from the curb. I know a lot of the stores are actually, physical stores are closed, but they might be doing delivery or they might be doing pickup, and help these guys out. And you can get some very interesting reading material along the way. I'm going to delve into this stuff, and I'll catch you next time. See you later.